Ah, welcome my friends and family. It's so wonderful to see you all here. It's a beautiful day. I'm here to present to you about an experience of mine and also to perform somewhat of a ceremony with all of you. So, I would like to start with a moment of silence to frame this because I believe that speaks to the experience as much as anything I could say does. So, a few moments of silence. Thank you for that. It's wonderful. So often we're just corrupted and brought out of the moment by the chaos of our lives that no one actually takes time to be still and just be. So it's wonderful to do that all with you here. Thank you for that. I'm here presenting to you for multiple reasons. Combining worlds, creating new worlds, I suppose. But essentially this is my graduation speech. It is a rite of passage for me. It's a reflection for myself about an experience I had in the wilderness. And I'm so honored to be able to share it with you. So, essentially there's academic reasons I'm presenting. Technically I'm a senior in high school this year, but I had a lot of extra credits from my old school, so I was lucky enough to need essentially only elective credits. So I could have gone to school for about a month this year, but I decided to take it into my own hands instead and do a wilderness trip, camping and solo time in the woods, which I feel is an excellent rite of passage out of high school into the world. And also with all the things that's going on at this time, protests around the world, I feel like this is a kind of monumental point in time and there's a lot of change happening. I don't know, a true milestone in many things. So this was that for me, no doubt. So I'm presenting it like a graduation speech and my personal reasons just to reflect and spread some of the things I've learned on this trip with all of you, because I think everyone can benefit from time in the wilderness, absolutely. So I'll go into the actual trip a little bit. It may seem like something simple, but actually camping, I don't know, it's pretty simple. But especially doing it in the context of school, you have to prepare a lot. So, got to get all your gear ready, of course, make sure there's no holes, get your tents, and all of that. Your gear, and then your food. I'm lucky enough to have Kate over here, my friend, prepare all of my food the whole time, which made me feel so much wonderful, definitely. Increased the experience in many ways. And then you have to physically and mentally prepare. It was not a very long hike in or anything, but with a heavy pack, you know, I need a little work. I didn't do much physical preparation, but definitely mental preparation. Being alone in the woods is quite an intense experience. And you have to prepare for that a little bit. So as far as the actual journey went, I'll give you a quick day by day, I suppose. It was last Thursday that I left. Me and my mom hiked out in the morning, hiked up to Lost Lake, and set up everything. It's kind of vague and in the past now, so I have a hard time giving you a day today of this. But we sat for a long time, and the next day we spent the whole day together, and then she left eventually and left me alone in the woods, and I had about 3 days by myself, and then she came back, and a couple of my friends, Mackenzie. It's a wonderful experience. Wow, I don't even know how to describe it, really. I guess I can just talk about what I learned more than what I actually did. I guess just the initial going into it, you get the angst you have from anything you start initially. It's more of a feeling, you don't know why it's there, it's just in your stomach a little bit. It's pretty cool, it's fun to acknowledge. Had that the whole time. We got in, and really the separation into the alone time was something that taught me the most. Before that happened, me and my mom, we were just kind of sitting there doing things. She was making portals in the ground, and we decided to open our third eyes and walk around the lake with our eyes closed for a little bit. And this was a great thing to, I don't know, it taught me a lot in terms of trusting yourself and your instincts, because you really are there you have the ability to navigate even without your eyes, if you trust yourself enough to. And it also spoke to the influence others have on you very profoundly, because at one point we were walking, my mom, she just stepped perfectly in between these rocks, so I laughed a little bit because of how perfect she did it with her eyes closed. And she actually changed off path just because of that, so it's amazing to see how one little snicker or whatever you do, how others can affect you and change you, set you off your path, set you off from trusting yourself just by that little moment. And then being alone, the actual separation between me and her was a monumental thing, because in my life, I mean, I've been with my mom pretty much my whole life. It's been me and her growing up. So that was hard, but it's also very much spoke to exactly where I'm at in life, more so than just that moment. The whole camping trip was like a reflection of where my entire life is at right now, really, in a lot of ways. It's so good to get to share that with you. The solo time, I don't even know how to begin to describe. Really, you achieve things alone in the wilderness that you couldn't with other people there, no matter who it is. I feel more spiritually connected to my mom than pretty much anybody in the world, and still it was very, very profound to see how much of a influence she had on me, and to be working on my own schedule for really the first time in my life also taught me a lot, to be cooking when I wanted to and doing these things. So I'd never really had that feeling before, so it was just wonderful. And where to go now? Solo time in the wilderness. I don't even know how to speak to it. It was just such an amazing experience. I could describe it better with music or drawings or something, probably. I did a lot of shamanic journeying during this, which is an ancient practice shamans use, where they journey into the spirit world for questions or whatever, help find out about just what's going on in your life. And I did a lot of this. I'd like to share one of my journeys with you. At one point, I was sitting in the campsite and I realized there was one spot that throughout the day got sun, so I went and sat there and kind of drew a sun around me, just a circle of things coming out of it. I began drumming, and essentially there's 3 worlds in shamanic journeying: the lower world, the middle world, and the upper world. The lower world is generally you go into the earth and find some kind of landscape you come on. The middle world is like this reality, all the spirits here, the spirits of the rocks and trees around us. You can journey and meet them. And the upper world is above space, it's beyond any of this. But anyways, I journeyed into the lower world through, you start with a portal normally, you can go into some kind of mine shaft or whatever it is, but I used the circle I drew around me as my portal and went straight down and ended up at this place in the river I saw before, in this little rock cropping, and I walked into the rocks and started going down and down into the middle of the earth and went farther and farther until I reached the core. And I saw the core of the earth, and it was just this little dot, and I asked it what it had to teach me, and it told me that I had the same source that it does. And there was this pattern I was seeing in the sun for a couple days before this happened. I actually kind of drew it down in here. I can show it to you wherever it is. But essentially it's like kind of a star thing that just fractals out infinitely. This. It's just a star, and then there's a circle around it, and it keeps coming out. And I found that I saw that in the sun, and I'd look at it and I'd kind of see that pattern, and I realized that all the light I see around me is just a further fractaling out of that thing. And I realized that my life in many ways is like that. I'm going out infinitely into as many things, as many places as I can be. But anyways, and so I was there. I asked the earth what it had to teach me, the center of it, and it said I had the same source it does, and it exploded out into this pattern. And so did I, and so did all the life around me and the planets all throughout the universe, and it all got entangled into just this web, and each little dot was a piece of life inside of the web of life, and I could see this. And then I suddenly came out of the journey really fast because I felt this strong presence. I thought there was a wild animal right next to me or something. And so I kind of freaked out a little bit. I was just like, whoa. And because normally when you're doing this, you want to come down from it and, come back into this world, kind of drum yourself out of it, relax, kind of maybe hold a rock or something to bring you back down to earth. But I didn't really do that, and then I went and instantly pulled one of these oracle cards, actually. And I read it, and it wasn't really speaking to me very much, and I realized I pulled it upside down, and they have a contrary meaning when you pull it upside down, and it really spoke to just kind of letting go of these demons that I have from past experiences and my childhood and things. And so I started walking around the lake for some reason, and I came to this one spot where I had a profound experience earlier in the journey, but my nose started bleeding pretty badly, and I went back and sat in the portal and bled this whole pile of blood in my hand, and I had a vision of the demon in my hand, and I let it out, and I burnt some of the blood later that night, and since then I've felt very free from many things. So thought I'd share that with you because it was one of the most amazing things I've ever experienced in my life. As far as other learnings from the trip, I could pretty much split it up into physical, mental, and spiritual. Physically, from eating well, from running around the whole time, from staying in shape, feeling the environment, getting cold when it's cold out, hot when it's hot out, not just staying in like a little temperature controlled room all the time. Really being there physically, and all of these are very intertwined, of course. Mentally, the stillness you find there is like nowhere else. Our lives are so busy and chaotic that we never take time to just be. We always have to do something. You have to be reading a book or cooking something or have some type of agenda, something that you're going to accomplish. But really, I only achieved not having that once the entire time, and I could actually feel everything around me. Felt completely one with all of it, the wind and the river and the trees, all the animals around me. So mentally, that's pretty much what I learned, and spiritually, I could hardly even put it into tangible terms. I mean, I told you about that journey. There's many things like that, and I also learned that the best way to give respect to the spirits for all they do for us is to let them come through you in some way, to channel it, either by drawing or by playing a song or whatever. So I would like to end by playing a song for you all. to open it up to any questions and pass my journal around. I'll feel free to look at it. There's drawings and all sorts of nonsense. Questions?
No questions.
Where'd you learn about the shamanic journey stuff at?
I was introduced to it when I was probably about 10 years old for the first time, not necessarily as shamanic journeying, but by a friend, Teresa. It's too bad she couldn't be here today, but you know, she is in spirit. When I was about 10 years old, probably, she introduced me to it for the first time. And then my first real journey took place with Julie Davis, another wonderful person who couldn't be here today, but I spent some time with her earlier today. And that was probably when 3 or 4 years ago, and since then I've been doing it.
What are you gonna do to yourself now?
Well, I'm going to California next week. No, it's a great question. I actually had a lot of time to think about that and reflect on that, and I'm very blessed to have been given this wonderful life.
Question. Hey,
What's going on?
Well, what's actually going on next? I'm leaving for California in like a week to go work on an organic farm up there for a while.
well, that's cool in and of itself.
Yeah, definitely. And then after that, I've been given this amazingly wonderful life. I'm lucky enough to have had Vince as my dad, who you all know, and he's really given me so much musically and in terms of kind of a career and a path that I can follow to the point where at this point I feel like I can just kind of flow and just let things be and let it come to me as it needs to, and just live like that for a little while until I'm totally poor and a bum and living on the streets or something. And then who knows, maybe I'll get a real job. Probably not.
I don't think a real job would be a good idea.
None of us have real jobs.
Okay, so I have to ask, when you're sitting out there for those 3 days, did you have any moments where you're like,
Absolutely. I feel like boredom in general comes from our busy lives and how we're constantly occupied to the point that when we're not, we don't know what to do with ourselves. So I feel like I definitely had that, but I felt like I overcame it by the end, to the point where I could just be and know that everything around me, I wasn't really lonely because the trees were there and the rocks and all these spirits. I felt perfectly at home, and I will everywhere I go from now on, every place, just from having such an experience. But no, I feel like I transcended boredom kind of by then.
Silas, what advice would you give other people who would choose to have a quest or time alone like this in nature?
I mean, I guess just go do it. I mean, I think absolutely everyone in the world, especially having grown up in our culture, could benefit from this, hands down. No doubt about it. So much you can learn, and I don't even know how to speak to those learnings necessarily. They'd have to be found within yourself. I truly do encourage everybody to go be alone in the woods for some amount of time in their life. It's an essential part of the human experience.
Do you have any encounters with wildlife at all?
I saw a ferret kill a squirrel. That was one of the coolest ones.
Wow.
It was actually a very intense moment, no doubt. Aside from that, no real big animals. I didn't see any elk or deer or bears or anything. I felt their presence, but not really near me. More further away in the valley, for sure.
isn't it, is in the wild up here, it's different than a ferret though, isn't it? Is it a,
A weasel?
A martin.
Marmot?
Martin.
No, it was
Martin.
marmot.
Martin. Pine martin.
Jackalope.
yeah.
Oh.
It's wild boar.
It's enough for cop out.
Did you write the song?
Yeah, it was kind of improvised in the spur of the moment.
Could you play it again if you
Not like that.
What were the fears that you spoke of, like, if you were willing to speak about them?
Of course.
When you spoke about kind of fears, concerns, that feeling in your gut, can you?
I guess it's just being alone. You know, we spend our lives with everybody. It's being in the woods. We spend our time inside all the time, and I don't know. I feel like out of that moment of fear, that moment of angst, usually like some of the most amazing things come in life because it's like the building up to something. I guess mainly the fears were just, I don't know, I felt like there were fears I've had before that I'll always have, and it's not that it was a bad thing at all, it was just there. That angst inside of you will always be there, no matter what you, not no matter what you do, but in that moment leading up to something, and I love that feeling. It's pretty amazing, so I feel like that'll always be there, but I definitely learned enough to feel totally comfortable and confident being alone in the woods.
Like bears or lions or anything? Did you feel any
Tigers.
like fear? Wild boar. Any fear of wildlife like that, or?
A little bit, only when it got dark. One night when I was by myself, I didn't have a campfire, and that was pretty intense because it was really dark. The moon was pretty much not even there. And at night, I feel more receptive to things sometimes. I was born like right as it was turning into night too, so that may be part of it. But I don't know, everything is strong. I did have a few moments when I was by myself at night, being scared, like hearing footsteps around the tent and voices in my head. But it was all right and in its right place. I feel like if I did encounter a wild animal, I would know what to do. I don't know what that is now, but I would in the moment.
When in fear or in doubt, run in circles, scream and shout. I think you ought to do a desert trip. It's a whole different camping in the desert.
Right. No
The
doubt.
solitude in the desert is
Desert
so quiet.
solitude.
So quiet.
Right. There were a lot of people at the lake too that weekend when I was there. Nice. Well, thank you all so much for coming, sharing this moment with me. It's beautiful. Feel free to hang out and look at the journal, whatever you'd like.
Thank
Well,
you,
thank you,
Silas.
Silas.
Thank
Job
you,
done.
Silas.
I think it's really brave that you looked at this as a rite of passage, because I think that that's one of the things that our culture lacks, you know, is the rite of passage.
Absolutely.
Adulthood, you know, wisdom, so on and so forth.
Absolutely.
I really appreciate that.